welcome to the 10 at 10 News. I'm Betsy Bagwell.
And I'm John Johnson. In tonight's top headlines, we'll bring you live coverage from the brawl that broke out at the marketplace today, and also the highly unusual winter storm we're currently experiencing in the middle of July.
Also, in our exclusive second half hour, we bring to you our special assignment of the week, Sam Sampson's full analysis of recent battles in the current war against Britain.
But before we begin our coverage, we're bringing you the breaking news from our sister station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where it appears our nation has declared independence.
Earlier this afternoon, we received information that a formal declaration was in the works, being written by Thomas Jefferson. We have just been informed that it has, in fact, been signed by 56 noble congressmen of our 13 colonies.
Among the men who signed were John Hancock and Samuel Adams from Massachusetts, Josiah Bartlett and William Whipple from New Hampshire, and Thomas Jefferson and Carter Braxton from Virginia.
In the opening paragraph of said declaration, Jefferson states that, in order for a nation to become independent, they must, and I quote, declare the causes which impel them to the separation, end quote. In doing so, he also reminds his audience of the basic human rights that each citizen of this new country is entitled to.
Jefferson explains his definition of democracy, which is the style of government he plans to execute in the established nation. In the third section of the Declaration, he uses parallel sentences structure to explain what King George has done negatively to affect the 13 colonies.
Also stated in this document were the colonial defenses, stating what we have done to try to mend fences with our motherland. Jefferson writes, and I quote, in every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury.
To wrap up the Declaration, Jefferson notes that as a new nation, we will now be able to, quote, levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all the other acts and things which independent states might of right do, unquote. This declaration officially removes all authority that Britain had over us.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is an enormously significant historical event taking place right in our backyard, and we at Channel 10 promise to continue our coverage right after these messages.
Hello everybody, I'm Nigel Norrington reporting my good friend Malcolm Mansfield about the recent happenings in the colonies of America.
Hello. The thing I really want to know, Nigel, is who these colonists really think they are. How do they think they're going to survive without the crown?
A good question, Malcolm. This is exactly what we're going to cover in our segment of Nigel and Malcolm's Cup of Tea! Well, Malcolm, it appears that the colonists are striving to be their own country.
Yes, it would appear that way, Nigel.
Our reports tell us that 56 figureheads of the colonies have recently signed the Declaration of Independence. This document makes it quite clear that the colonists have problems with our King George.
I don't like this one bit. Losing these colonies would be bad news for British citizens.
I'm having quite a hard time understanding why these colonists are so upset to begin with. We've supplied them with protection from invasions and raids, we've established commerce with them, and supported their economy more than they could have ever hoped from other nations. Overall, I believe that the Brits have been jolly good friends to the colonists.
I do believe we've been quite good to these poor chaps. Quite ungrateful for them to throw a fit over a few taxes to support the war.
Very true, Malcolm. This war benefited them just as much as it benefited the crown.
I don't even see how they'll be able to support the notion of their own country. They can't form their own government because they'll never be able to agree on what sort of body to establish. And even if they do agree on one, they won't be able to run it. They can't maintain an army, and they won't be able to protect themselves against invasions or raids. And they won't even be able to support enough materials for such a rebellion.
True. And on top of all that, they can't support their own economy. The colonists depend on Britain to provide materials and ship their manufactured goods. They can't establish commerce with other nations, and they can't maintain good relations with other nations if they can't even keep up good terms with their mother country, Britain.
Our king must do everything possible to stop this charade being put on by these colonists. As I mentioned before, an independent colony would be bad news for British citizens.
Personally, I don't care what happens to those traitors. Independent colonies would mean higher taxes for British citizens and extremely weakened economy. Not only would the crown be receiving less tax money, but commerce would suffer and British consumers would be paying more for products. It's because of this that the British citizens must support the king in any decision he makes in dealing with these colonies.
My prediction, Nigel, is that the king won't hesitate with dealing with these colonists. Responses will include regulations, added taxes. I bet we even go to war if necessary.
I wouldn't put it past our king. I think any person that stands in the way should be hanged for treason.
Well, it seems as if that's all the time we've got for this evening. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow during the next segment of
Nigel and Malcolm's Cup of Tea.